Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. An-niyyah mahalluha al-qalb. The intention rests in the heart. Every good deed requires an intention beforehand. So if you're about, for example, to make ablution for salah, if you want to make wudu for salah, you have to have the intention for wudu before you start washing the organs of the body for wudu. If you immerse your entire body in water without the intention to make wudu and you finish, you don't have wudu. So every good deed is like this. Now, oftentimes we have an intention to pray a certain salah, like dhuhr, for example, or asr, and then all of a sudden, after we start and we say Allahu Akbar, we realize that we forgot to pray another salah before. So we want to change the intention after you start the salah. Or you start praying Aisha, for example, and then you realize, oh, you know what? I want to pray some sunnah first before Aisha, and then I want to pray Aisha. And you make that realization after you say Allahu Akbar and you start the salah. So the question is, are you allowed to change your intention in the middle of the salah? After you say Allahu Akbar and you start the salah, are you allowed to change the intention from one salah to another? That is the question. So pay close attention so that I can explain it to you, inshallah. There are two different types of salah that we do. Two different types of prayers that we do. Fard, which are the five mandatory salah: Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha. 2 rak'ahs here, and 4 for Dhuhr, 4 for Asr, 3 for Maghrib, and 4 for Isha. These are the mandatory salah. Everything else, all the other prayers, such as the 2 rak'ahs before Fajr, or anything before Dhuhr, or after, anything before Asr, because we don't have after Asr, anything before or after Maghrib, anything before or after Isha, including Qiyam and Taraweeh and Witr. So these are the mandatory Fard salawat, 5 prayers, and then everything else is going to be nafl. There are 4 different cases of changing your intention, 4 different probabilities. If you're changing from fard to fard, meaning you started praying asr, for example, and then you all of a sudden you remembered you didn't even pray dhuhr. So you want to change your intention in the middle of the salah so that you can pray dhuhr first and then pray asr. So this is changing from fard to fard. The second case is changing from fard to nafl. For example, you started praying maghrib and then you realized, oh, I have some more time and some more energy. Let me pray some voluntary nafl before maghrib and then pray maghrib. And you made that decision after you said Allahu Akbar, after you entered in the salah. So this is the second case. You want to change from fard to nafl. The third case is from nafl to nafl. From nafl to nafl, meaning a voluntary salah. Let's say you started praying Qiyam. After you finished Isha, you wanted to pray Witr. And you entered, you said Allahu Akbar, you're planning on praying 1 rak'ah for Witr. And then you said, let me pray some Qiyam first before Witr. First, let me pray some Qiyam. Let me do 2 rak'ahs first of Qiyam. And then after this, I want to pray Witr. Are you allowed to do this? So this is the third case. Nafl to nafl. And the fourth probability is from nafl to fard, meaning you started praying a nafl salah. For example, you started praying, let's say you entered the masjid after Isha called and you started praying sunnah, something before Isha. And then people started lining up next to you and you wanted to enter with them in the Isha salah. Or, for example, you started praying Qiyam after Isha, and then you realized you didn't even pray Isha yet, so you want to change your intention, your niyyah, to pray Isha first, and then after this you're going to do Qiyam. So you're changing from a voluntary salah, nafl, to fard. Okay, these are the 4 probabilities. If you're changing from fard to fard, it does not work. If you're about to pray one of the 5 mandatory prayers and you say Allahu Akbar and you enter into the salah and then you realize you want to do another one of the 5, it does not work. You cannot change your niyyah. Meaning, when you had the intention to pray dhuhr and you said Allahu Akbar, you have to finish the entire salah with the intention to pray dhuhr. Same thing for all the other 5. So the first probability from fard to fard, you cannot change the intention after you say Allahu Akbar and enter salah. The second case is fard to nafl, meaning you started praying something mandatory and then you realized, oh, let me pray some sunnah first and then do the mandatory. In this case, changing the intention after the salah is permissible. The third case is changing from nafl to nafl. So you started praying some sunnah, like let's say witr, and then you realized, oh, let me pray some qiyam first or some taraweeh or something and then save witr for later. In this case, it is permissible. And the last probability is nafl to fard, meaning you started praying some sunnah first. Let's say you started praying qiyam and then you realized, oh wow, I haven't even prayed Aisha yet, subhanallah. So let me change and pray Aisha and then pray qiyam. In this case, it does not work. So if you have already said Allahu Akbar and you started praying your nafl, you cannot change the intention while you're in the middle of the salah into something that is fard. So it works in 2 cases and does not work in 2 cases. From fard to fard does not work, and from nafl to fard does not work. It only works if you're doing from fard to nafl, meaning changing from mandatory to voluntary. From mandatory to voluntary, it works. And from voluntary to voluntary, it works. Mandatory to voluntary works, and voluntary to voluntary works. The other 2 probabilities don't work. So what do we do if you have entered the salah in the cases that it does not work to change the intention? What do we do? You have 2 choices. You either finish the salah with the initial intention that you started with and then start the other salah, or you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, you exit the salah, you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to your right, even if you're standing up. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to your right, and then to your left if you want, and then start again the salah, the new one that you want to intend. So let's say you started praying Asr. This is the case from fard, mandatory salah, to mandatory salah. You started praying Asr and your intention was to pray Asr, and then you realized after you started that you haven't even prayed Dhuhr. So you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and you exit the salah and you start again from the beginning and you say Allahu Akbar, Takbirat al-Ihram, and you start praying Dhuhr. This is how that works. So if you want to change your intention in the middle of the salah, in this case, from mandatory to mandatory does not, from voluntary to mandatory does not work. It only works if you're going from mandatory, if you're changing your niyyah from mandatory to voluntary, or if you're changing your niyyah between 2 voluntary salah. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept all of our prayers. Jazakumullahu khairan. Salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.